Hello, my name is Christina Hoffman. In this presentation, we will be investigating the current controversy surrounding social media censorship. We will look at current laws and how they apply to social media, pros and cons of censorship, and how our evolving society ought to approach this ethical dilemma. To start, I want to ensure that we have a solid foundation by defining key aspects of this discussion. When talking about social media, I am referring to electronic forms of communication in which users can create groups and share information with others, as defined by Merriam-Webster's online dictionary. The term regulated speech will be used to refer to regulation of content based on substance of the message, further broken down and explained by LawShelf. When discussing free or freedom of speech, I will be referencing one's legal right to free expression, clearly defined by Merriam-Webster's online dictionary. Sticking to this standard terminology will help to mitigate any misinterpretation of this presentation. Let's look at individual rights and how they affect social media. Everyone is aware of the U.S. First Amendment, including our legal right to free speech. This law forbids our government from restricting, silencing, or punishing citizens for self-expression. Of course, there are stipulations to this right. The government can step in situations where speech becomes threatening or incites violence. You can study every aspect of the First Amendment on history.com. This is where it gets complicated. Many argue that social media censorship infringes on our legal right to free speech. As it stands currently, this assertion is false. The First Amendment forbids government censorship. Since social media platforms are privately owned, they are not legally required to permit free speech, just as a private business is not forced to allow individuals to protest within their establishment. King 5 News did an informative segment on this if you would like to look into it more in depth. Furthermore, all social media platforms have users agree to their terms and conditions prior to joining their forum. This agreement essentially gives social media giants permission to take action when users violate their terms, regardless of how ethical or valid said terms are. Another relevant entity to this discussion is the Federal Communications Commission. The FCC is an independent government agency that regulates and oversees communication by print, radio, satellite, and cable. It's comprised of government professionals. Basically, they provide oversight for all media outlets, excluding social media. In recent years, the FCC has focused on extending its reach to the internet and social media. Moving forward, let's evaluate what ethical issues have arose due to privatized censorship within a powerful growing industry. Major complaints for and against censorship have gained traction over the years, and to come up with an ethical solution, we must look at all of them. Many people feel that social media does not do enough to combat hate speech and bullying. There are many articles surrounding this opinion, and I've linked a great one here. We have all witnessed or experienced this issue online, and we know the harm that it can do. What can be done to limit this issue in the future? Sadly, social media also assists the tragic sex trafficking industry. Criminals often use social media to find and even sell their victims. You can learn more about their methods at fightthenewdrug.org. Masses have expressed that social media must put more focus on deterring this criminal use of their forums. On the other end of the spectrum, we find that most U.S. citizens feel that social media oversteps by censoring users' political opinions. Pew Research Center did a survey showing that people of all political affiliations believe in the censorship despite Facebook's denial of those claims. Overall, people feel that forums must be more transparent in their censorship policies. Continuing on, I want to dive into what social media platforms top the industry and how they approach censorship. Currently, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter are the most popular sites with an exponentially growing community, tracked by Statista. Millions and billions of people partake in these forums regularly, and all are subjects of the forum censorship. Facebook and Instagram are owned by the same company, and both are overseen by an oversight board. You can learn more about this committee on their website, linked on this slide. This board was created and staffed in 2020 as CEO's Mark Zuckerberg's attempt to make his platform more transparent and legit. This oversight committee saw its first cases in January 2021 and has already overturned some of Facebook's decisions. Twitter, the third leading platform, does not have an oversight board as of yet. Now that we have a well-rounded understanding of this hot topic, it's time to assess how we can apply it to ethics, starting with personal benefit. We know that censorship can and does protect users from becoming victims of bullying. Twitter removes hateful content such as name-calling, which plainly protects individuals. This type of censorship is ethical and should be further improved on. Moving on to social benefits of social media censorship. There is no denying that censorship of disturbing content is needed. Without social media working to censor content such as child pornography, society would suffer emotionally and morally. Looking further, we can apply the ethical principle of benevolence. Social media censorship can directly help those in need by censoring private information that others may release. For example, victims of crime need privacy, and Facebook would be acting ethically when removing private information from posts about a crime victim. As for the principle of harm, Instagram removing a comment from one user threatening another is an ethical action trying to prevent harm. Digging deeper, we can evaluate the principle of honesty. Unfortunately, social media censorship can be used to influence perceptions, therefore deceiving people. By making certain messages less accessible, Facebook has the power to sway discourse and overall opinion. Expanding on that, we must consider ethical rights. Rights that everyone ought to respect. One of these rights is the right to information, and if Facebook or Twitter control what information we are exposed to, ethically, they are limiting this right. In my opinion, after gathering a well-rounded understanding of this ethical issue, I feel we ought to find a middle ground. Social media has evolved into a wildly influential form of media. No individual company should hold so much power without being somehow accountable to its users. There is unarguably a need for some type of censorship in order to keep social media users safe. This censorship needs some type of oversight across the board in order to alleviate bias or social control. To come up with a solution, we must recognize how influential and growing social media is. In the last decade, this giant industry has slowly begun to monopolize public interest, only increasing its influence and control in society. I look to the future in hopes of seeing the FCC extend its reach to the internet to further develop and assist in censorship of dangerous and unethical content, while providing unbiased decision-making and transparency when it comes to censorship. And here is my works cited page. Thank you so much for listening.